on the grounds of Al-Aqsa is one of the holiest places in the Islamic religion. And so we've come here today, one of the holiest nights of Ramadan. The crowds are huge. So if anything happens, it could potentially be very dangerous for the people that are here.
It's nighttime prayers for Palestinian Muslims, and this year Israeli forces showed up unannounced.
So you can see that there is Israeli police actually inside, in the grounds of Al-Aqsa. That's what triggered the protests, and that's what triggered the anger today.
Palestinians feel like they're being pushed out of East Jerusalem. The city they see is the capital of a future Palestinian state. They say Israel is upping its efforts to redraw the border of the city. But Israel claims it belongs to them, despite the United Nations saying it's an occupation, illegal under international law.
The Israeli police have been arresting Palestinian children. Palestinians are retaliating because so many young men have been taken away by police.
عالم مالهاش داعي توصل مبالغ بالشوم صاروا مسكون سخطوا كلكم بتسوي تعصيبه بركه يا زلمه
قديش عمرك؟ قديش عمرك؟ قديش عمرك؟ 15 سنه شو قديش عمرك؟ ليش تفكرونا فيه؟ ليش؟ أنا مو
بدهم يقعدوا كل الشباب واحد واحد.
As Ramadan continued, Palestinians in East Jerusalem faced stun grenades, arrests and water cannons, some of the worst violence seen in years.
طالعين في شيء شنبينا ولا شيء كلاب حيوانات شو عادي بس هذا تنسشوا اوعى تنسى هذا اللي
East Jerusalem is important to Jews, Muslims and Christians. It's also the site of the sacred Jewish Temple Mount, but most of the people who live in this part of the city are Palestinians. That's been slowly changing since Israel captured the area in 1967 and started moving in settlers. Jewish people now make up around 40% of the population. And in 2018, Israel was emboldened by President Trump, who moved the US embassy into East Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. It outraged Palestinians, but was celebrated by right-wing Israelis.
It is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
At the heart of the fight over East Jerusalem is the neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah, home mostly to Palestinian families, some who came here in 1956 after being displaced by Israel when the state was created 8 years earlier. Israel claims Jews historically owned this land. Now, there's a lawsuit to forcibly evict some Palestinian residents making its way through the courts. Protesters have been turning up since the issue reached the Supreme Court this year.
بسنة 67 أول بيت استولت عليه الجماعات الصهيونية بعد الحرب ب5 أشهر، شهر 11/67 استولوا على أول بيت بالحي وبيت عائلة الشنطي.
Rana and Prod and her relatives are one of 28 families fighting in court to keep their homes.
صدقوني ما حد من أهل الحارة رح يطلع إلا لآخر لحظة يجوا يشحطونا شحط. نعيش بيتنا أرضنا.
Other Palestinians have already been replaced by right-wing Israeli settlers.
مش صار هسه صار
كانوا واقفين شباب وصبايا فلسطينيين وهجم عليهم نزلهم بالعصاية. شوف العصاية اللي بإيده سرقين، هذول سرقين حرامية. أنا وياهم بنفس البيت.
من بيتك؟
هم ببيتي. تعال شوفي هذا البيت اللي أخذته ستي لأنها لاجئة تهجرت بال48 من حيفا. هذا البيت
هذه
بابا بناه بسنة 2000 لأنه تزوج وجابنا فصار بده مساحة أكبر. بس بابا أنهى بناء البيت عمرنا ما سكناه. أجا القاضي سكر باب البيت ورجع على المحكمة وأمر إنه البيت يضل مسكر بحجة إنه مبني بدون ترخيص.
منو يعيش فيها؟
مستوطن شباب مش عيلة.
انتوا تعيشون هنا
وهم هون
وهم يعيشون
بالضبط
هنا.
بابا وماما كانوا يشتغلوا حوشوا مصاري وبنوا هذا البيت.
اوكي.
كله من تعبنا وشقانا. وبعدين أصدرت محكمة الاحتلال قرار بإنه يجوز للمستوطنين السكن في المنزل. طب ما هذا البيت بدون ترخيص صح وعليه أمرين هدم. طب هو بدون ترخيص على أي أساس بتسكنوا مستوطن إسرائيلي فيه وبتمنعوني أنا كفلسطينية أسكن فيه؟ على أي أساس؟ أني ديمقراطية هاي.
ايش تفعلين لما نشوف؟
قهر انزعاج يعني مزعج متعب. أنا ما ببكي لأني طايفة أبدا صدقيني والله، بس ببكي لأنه ما نتعاملش مع دولة عادلة. احتلال وهذه أرضنا. أنا انخلقت ربيت وعيت كبرت هون على أساس في حدا ياخدها؟ كيف؟ بأي منطق؟ اللي عم بيصير مناهض للقوانين الدولية. تهجير القسري جريمة حرب.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Thank God, still alive.
You're a difficult man to get hold of.
Yeah, it's, generally don't interview, but given the circumstances and the bad press that's out there, we decided that we need to do some damage control.
Jacob Fauci is an American Israeli who became infamous after Mona confronted him and the video went viral.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? What are you yelling at me? I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, يا عمي.
He's been living in an additional part of Mona's house for over 10 years after being recruited by a US-based company called Nahalat Shimon International, which owns the property under Israeli law.
How did you end up here?
It's a long story. Basically, I needed to move from where I was, and my friend was very, very active in this neighborhood. And he said, you can stay here for the time being.
Do you pay rent?
I have an arrangement with the owners of the house. I don't want to get into the personal arrangements and rents and things, but yes, I'm a tenant here. I have no ownership over this property.
You're from Brooklyn?
No, I'm from New York, from Long Island.
From New York. What right do you have to live here?
The right I have is that the owner of the house wants me to live here, and he wants there to be Jews living in this house, and he wants to. And I got chosen for whatever reason. It ended up being me.
So why do you live
and
here?
Because I live here, because it's important, and because not too many people want to live here, and it's important to strengthen this neighborhood, to make sure that this neighborhood is not lost in any future peace deal. This is not their ancestral lands. They've not been here for generations. They came here in 1956 because they had nowhere else to be, and somebody illegally put them here. Whatever they're accusing me of is no different from what they're doing, and what they did.
So your position here is a political position to keep Palestinians out of it?
Not to keep Palestinians out of it, to keep Jews in it.
And therefore
Not
keep
out.
the Palestinians who are here out of it?
No, that's not, no. That's a necessary evil. Whatever situation is, and that's what I was trying to explain in that viral video, they're not coming back here. This part of the house for sure is lost. The second part of the house, unless there's some major miracle, is going to be lost. And they're not coming back into here. So whether I'm here, whether I'm not here, whether it's me, whether it's someone else, whether it's a monkey, whether it's a giraffe, they're not coming back into this house ever. I understand why they're angry at me, I understand why they dislike me, but I did not do this to them, I'm not doing this to them, and as I said, if I leave, I'll be replaced immediately, and I venture to think that whoever comes here is not going to be as easygoing as I am.
Jacob's and Nahalat Shimon International's unyielding stance is being challenged both inside the neighborhood and in court, where lawyers representing the families argue it's illegal under international law to displace anyone from occupied land. They're also arguing that there's a double standard. Israel allows Jews to return to their homeland, but not Palestinians.
I don't want to call it property. I just want to ask you why. I want to ask you why you've taken the man.
Nahalat Shimon International did not